back at WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. We are positively making things happen here this week in advance of a long day of waiting. Sunday Night Football. Saw it on the calendar 5-6 months ago. Thought, man, maybe good, maybe 3-1, maybe 4-0. Hopefully not 1-3. The 2-2s and the 2-2s get together to figure out who's going to win this division, because I don't think it's going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers or the Cleveland Browns this year. This guy wore the real helmets, and I've saved him in staggering order. He is the final guest from Cincinnati this week. He is the longtime voice and color voice of the Cincinnati Bengals, as well as a damn fine lineman back in the day when they wore the Bengals. And my dad took me out to 33rd Street and saw you trying to pop around Stan White and Bruce Laird and a bunch of my guys that I see here all the time. Dave Lapham is one of those guys out in Cincinnati, like a Stan White and a Bruce Laird, guys that have been doing it a long, long time, still doing it as well as anyone, and fresh off of a Super Bowl call. Right? I mean, am I getting that right, Dave?
You got it right, Nestor. You're the man. Appreciate the opportunity to visit, my friend.
Well, give me the lowdown on just where the franchise is at this point, because I went in there the first time Marvin got a hold of this, and in Marvin we trust the Chad Johnson era, the Ocho Cinco era, the Carson Palmer era, the Jordan Palmer era. You know, like all of the eras, even going back to Coslet and, you know, into all of that, and even Sam, where you live in Cincinnati, you don't live in Cleveland, which I still think's outstanding. God bless Sam. But has it changed? I mean, you know, I don't want to say it's always been a Reds town or wherever it is, and the Brown family and slow to change to things like white helmets that they did last week. But it feels like, you know, fast changes coming into Cincinnati, and they're sort of buckling up like we think we are for a little bit of a ride here. Then, I mean, your partner Dan was like, I don't think I'll be calling my last Super Bowl. And I'm like, whoa, things changed in Cincinnati.
Yeah, I'll tell you that a big factor has been the infusion of the young ideas. And the daughters of Troy and Katie Blackburn have done a phenomenal job. I mean, those young women of the social media aspect is off the charts in Cincinnati. The engagement with the fans is unbelievable. It's in the top 5 in the National Football League. And it's
and y'all thought Ocho Cinco was nuts when he had his own network. Remember that?
Right,
you know?
Right. Ocho Cinco's he's the guy, he's the man. There's no question about that. But man, I'll tell you, the Thursday night game, record crowd, biggest crowd ever in Cincinnati history, 67,200 and change. And it was a whiteout. They're all in white. They got white towels. They're whipping those white towels.
It looked collegiate to me. It looked like Auburn on a Saturday night.
I'm telling you, and it was like it almost made me seasick looking at it with all that motion. But and then they come out in the all white uniforms with the white helmet. It looked clean and crisp. And I mean, the town is going nuts. I mean, it is off the hook. It reminds me of how the city was responsive in the '80s when went to the Super Bowl a couple of times, and that's because they went to the Super Bowl last year. The tri-state area is very engaged. And I'll tell you what, Nestor, that run the Bengals made to the Super Bowl, they picked up a lot of national fans. I mean, it was amazing. When we went out there to the Super Bowl, the streets were packed with Cincinnati fans, and they just weren't from the state of Ohio. They were from all over the country. So, you know, the Joe Burrow factor and all of this, it's kind of caught on a little bit, and they're trying to ride that wave this year as well.
You've been there a long time, man. I mean, you wore a uniform back in the day at Riverfront, and, you know, I'll get into the uniforms, and, you know, I'll wait on the Bengals helmets because you're legit, and I really want you to talk about it. But this feels it feels different to me from the outside. Just watching the game, took me a few minutes to find it on Amazon. I had to steal my kid's account. Right. You know, I've talked about it Thursday night. And obviously the Tua thing was just, you know, an incredibly classy fan base too. Sam White would have said, "You're not in Cleveland, you're Cincinnati," for that. But it felt to me, and I've been coming to your town for 30 years, right? Like, you know, I was telling Dan, I was there the night that Peter Warwick made his debut in the new stadium. We were there to see Pearl Jam at Riverbend, my son and I, and we went to the fun park that the Brady Bunch did, the fun park, and we saw Jimmy Buffett out at Riverbend. It was like a great weekend. But I remember the stadium opening, how beautiful the stadium was. I mean, I still think it's just a marvelously cool, modern, neat when you drive in on the bridge. I mean, I don't even think WKRP in Cincinnati, but I've always looked kindly upon your town. You know that. I mean, Marvin and being out and seeing the suburbs and being there all of these years. And the fun of Marvin and my friend running your team for a decade and a half and seeing in Marvin we trust and rooting for your team to beat the Steelers in those games that didn't go so well. All of that's a build up to something that's a parade, right? We've had a couple of those here for football. It's been a little while for baseball here. And when it catches on and those tents show up in every neighborhood selling the white, whatever that thing's called, the white Bengal thing you're doing or whatever, that everybody's got to have one now, right? We did that here, right, with Purple Rain 1 in 01.
Yeah.
And then we had that 10 years where there was the Ray Lewis dance. Then Flacco comes in and we come close and, as Bum Phillips would say, knock on the – I mean, Lee Evans had the ball in his hand. We were going to the Super Bowl, right? And then we didn't, and then we did. And now it's been 10 years. And like last weekend, the coach didn't kick the field goal and we don't have the quarterback signed and they're throwing media members out. Like things have changed and there's empty seats. There's empty seats, Dave. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah. I mean, there were 20,000 Bills fans down here. I mean, like stuff that just never would have happened here. That we've changed. And part of it is getting jaded. Like I thought the Patriots, we played up there 2 weeks ago. I was shocked. Tickets are still $200. And I thought to myself, Tom Brady's gone. Haven't some people just decided they don't want to sit in the traffic on Route 1? No, but then there's a story like you, and if Philadelphia's going to resurrect at 4-0, but Cincinnati hasn't been there, and I really wanted to feel that aftermath because I was in LA for 10 days with you guys, right? Like I saw the fans come in. I thought you were going to win. I was in the upper deck. I was pulling for you, like all of that. And I thought, what's the aftermath of that? Is it going to go back to the old, well, they didn't win, or is it going to be, hey, I'm buying in. I'm buying in. And the Orioles have that right here now. Like, am I buying in or am I just waiting it out? It feels to me last Thursday, there's a buy-in in a way for the family to turn the page on whatever happened before to say this is what we are right now and we're something different for a 20-year-old that doesn't know from you or Ken Anderson or Boobie Clark, you know?
Right. You're right. I mean, you look at it, they're riding the wave. There's a season ticket waiting list.
Did you just hold on? There's a waiting list.
Yeah.
Right, now that's never happened. Am I saying never? Am I wrong in saying never?
Not never, but it's been a while. There's no question about that. All the suites are sold. You know that you have to hold. The league makes you hold back, a certain number for various functions or whatever. But all the ones that they can sell are sold. So I mean, it's definitely. The community has definitely grasped it. There are no two ways about it, and it's Joe Burrow's the big factor. I mean, and Nestor, as well as anybody, when you have a quarterback that believes in himself and everybody else believes in, it raises the whole boat. There's no question about it. And this kid gets it. I mean, in my humble opinion, the reason that Don Wink Martindale is now with the New York Giants is Joe Burrow. He almost had 1,000 yards passing in 2 games against Martindale's scheme last year. I mean, it was unbelievable. And, I don't know what kind of a falling out there was, if there was any, between Martindale and John Harbaugh. But, I just think that the fans think that this is a long-term thing. This isn't a one-hit wonder. The fan base feels like with Joe Burrow at the quarterback position, they're going to be a factor. They're going to be something to contend with for years to come. And I'll tell you, though, Nestor, the big thing this year hasn't been the offense. It's been the defensive consistency. Defensively, every week they've shown up. Now, they've been fortunate in that they've had backup quarterbacks all but for 2 quarters. And Tua didn't even finish the second quarter. I mean, they haven't played against, the quarterbacks that everybody around the league is like, oh, my God. They haven't faced anybody like that. And they're about to face one. I mean, Lamar is about as unique and talented and gifted as you can imagine. And he's having I admire a guy that pushes all the chips to the middle of the table, bets on himself, and he's playing good football. The only thing is, I'm looking at his fourth quarter numbers. He's got 11 touchdowns, 1 interception in the first 3 quarters of the game for the year. And in the fourth quarter, no touchdowns, 3 picks. No touchdowns, 3 interceptions.
Well, the defense has been on the field a lot, right? In the end of games to be giving up 21 points and 28 points in a quarter.
He's turned it over, yeah.
I mean, in the case of Lamar and where the offense is, they haven't gotten the offense. They're waiting on Ronnie Stanley. They've got this giant kid who's played pretty well.
Yeah.
I mean, they pick winners on the offensive line. They've made a lot of guys rich around here the last decade, from Ryan Jensen down in Tampa, just the Kelechi Assembly. They've drafted all these guys that get tons of money to go other places. Orlando Brown, running around in Kansas City. And the league's become more transient in that way. And the Lamar thing from the inside, and you're a young old timer, and you're a straight shooter. This is dangerous for the Ravens. You can talk about, we're going to franchise him, we're going to do this, he's going to love us a long time. Dude, when you see Tyreek Hill talking about the tax situation in Miami and how much more money he's making there than going to playing for the Jets.
Right.
Tom Brady, despite his divorce or whatever's going on with the girls and the kids and the Giselle and like all that. But that seat's going to be open. The Jacksonville seat looks like it's full. Miami, who knows? But that kid wants to play in Florida, in my mind, if they're going to let him go. And I said, this is like back when you and I were single and young, and you go out with the girl for a while, and you're either going to put a ring on it, you're either going to make it happen. And at this point, when players like Shannon Sharp and Ed Reed are popping off on social media, Richard Sherman, and saying, young man, test the market, go get your best deal. That's not what Bengals fans would want to hear about Joe Burrow. That $280 million or whatever that number is, and whatever you're making off the white helmets and Super Bowls and all that, that the quarterback who makes it happen isn't in your plans, in your future plans. That's a conversation above and beyond how he's playing, which is great. The interception he threw, which was horrible.
Right.
The way he breaks ankles and changes franchises. Can I ask you, did your franchise change after that sort of embarrassing thing that I was out there for right before the plague, right? Like that big play, it feels like when that happened, the era of Marvin and the era of those players and the era of we got to change happened for your defense that led you to LA.
Yeah, I agree with that. And, Lamar Jackson, this guy's a generational talent. I mean, the thing that if I'm a defensive coordinator, he's such a problem because, it's when he runs the football, it's an extra blocker. So your gap control responsibilities change. You have an extra guy to block. So instead of quarterback handing off and the running backs, he's got nine blockers blocking 11 people. With Lamar, he's the runner, but you got 11 blockers instead of 9 blocking 11 people, and he can make a guy miss. It's a different dynamic when he's running the football. I mean, he's got a 79-yard touchdown run, 75-yard touchdown pass. And, granted, 7-yard slant, kid breaks it. Duvernay goes to the house. Was it? Yeah, it was Duvernay that went to the house, wasn't it? I think from 79 yards out. And his skill set is so different. But I will say, Lou Anarumo is creative now. I don't know, Lou. He went the 5 defensive lineman package to stop that running game. He's gone 3 safeties on the back end. He's had various guys at spy. He's had, Logan Wilson at spy. He's had Akeem Davis-Gaither. He's had Sam Hubbard as a spy. He's had safeties as a spy. He's very creative, very multiple. He's got positionless players. I think that's going to be an intriguing thing to watch, what Lou Anarumo, what he comes up with in the adjustments that he's got. If plan A is not working, does he have plan B, C, D? Because with Lamar Jackson, you're going to need to have some adjustments to be made for sure.
Remember back in your day, right? There'd be one spy on your quarterback, or who it is, and they bring a safety down or linebacker. They have to worry about just keep him if he moves a little bit toward the sticks. Keep him honest. I would think there's no such thing as one guy on Lamar. You mentioned 5 different guys. It is a committee deal stopping Lamar, and we talk alignment, assignment, technique, basic football, right?
Yeah.
You can be aligned. You can know what your assignment is. You can have all the technique in the world, and there's no schematic to stop him in space if you move the wrong way, and it becomes street ball at that point. And he's the best who's ever done it, ever, for sure. Because kind of reminds me when my parents said, you can play sports, but you got to be good at school too.
Yeah.
He's gone to school, and he's become faster, stronger, much more accurate, much more detailed in making first reads, second reads, pocket awareness, hook sliding. I saw him running into linebackers 4 years ago on purpose, Dave, like
Yeah.
the way McNair used to and the way Cam Newton foolishly, like seeking contact. We thought, well, that's a real man and a quarterback seeking. Let him run over the
Right.
linebacker. Brett Favre did that, like I, I don't say they coached that out of him or they've Roger Dorned him or he's Roger Dorned himself. And we always ask if he has insurance on himself. We always ask that question at this point that, it is valuable property and he's elevated every part of his game. I mean, every part of his game. And we're 2-2 because the defense, because the coach, because decisions, because of his play, on the goal line, not getting in the end zone and throwing the ball and
Right.
bringing him out to the 20. So for all of that, it's one fatal mistake, right, that gets you blown up. But in the case of the Bengals defense, they know that too. One mistake can get you blown up against Lamar Jackson.
No question. And I think Greg Roman's done a good job this year. I'm seeing, when I'm looking at, I'm seeing more empty backfield. I'm seeing him under center more. I'm seeing some adjustments that Greg Roman's made, schematically, offensively to utilize the talents of Jackson even more. And like you said, you can spy all you want. Can the spy get him on the ground? That's the key. If you're gonna commit a player to that quarterback, and the quarterback understands that and sees it, you're taking somebody out of coverage if it's on the back end or linebacker. I mean, if you take a defensive lineman and move him off the line of scrimmage to spy, you're taking him out of any kind of a pass rush unless you blitz him late, which they did with Sam Hubbard. He'd spy Lamar Jackson a little bit when Lamar's running around and doesn't have anywhere to go with the football. He'd come downhill and rush him late, but it wasn't immediate. He is a problem. He causes you to do things that you don't normally or naturally want to do. This guy, he's a difference maker. I mean, he's something else. You have to game plan differently for Lamar Jackson, period.
Well, we've seen the weapons of Tua Tagovailoa, right? Like a couple weeks ago, you saw him, right? So
Yep.
Really incredible skill position players. I would say the Bengals rival that, and certainly in the case of Chase and Burrow have a connection. In the way that Lamar and Mark Andrews, we'd say at this point, he's a Pro Bowler. They're both,
Yep.
Pro Bowlers because of that. Trying to figure that out. You mentioned Duvernay. Bateman had an issue last week, was doing okay. Hollywood Brown's no longer here.
Right.
Hayden Hurst is out with you. He was our original number 1 pick when we picked Lamar Jackson that night. When I fell asleep, Dave, I had my laptop. I was like, and I wake up and Lamar's in a green jacket and there's a purple bird. And I'm like, it was 20 minutes. I'm like, what the hell just happened? So I always say I fell asleep on Lamar Jackson when he got drafted because I did. But, skill position players and having Hayden Hurst, a damn fine tight end for, if you want to try to distribute the ball, and he's got weapons there. That creates the matchup problem. And, for the Ravens, they're not there yet where people really think of that as a threat, but Lamar will throw the ball over your head, and he is staying in the pocket. That's really he's looking to make that play in a read with the ball in the air as opposed to running for the sticks. And that's, I don't know. That's good, bad. You don't want to coach too much. You don't want to, but he's got a balance of how to play the game and how he sees the game. And the Bengals, I would think their off seasons are built for this, right? They're not building for Ben Roethlisberger and Tom Brady anymore. They're building for this.
No question. And you make a great point. In my mind, looking at the tape, Jackson's yards have come off the design quarterback run package. When he's running now, he's running with his eyes downfield looking to throw the football.
And he gets you off your feet. That's where he makes you full. He can deep throw. Right. You leave your feet, and then he's gone.
Yep. But he's definitely looking to throw. I mean, when he used to extend and create, all he was doing was trying to create rush lanes. Now he's extending, creating to try to buy time to get the ball down the field, throwing the football. I think that's a big difference in him as well. I think he's really concentrating on throwing the football in those situations rather than it almost like his first couple of years. It was like when he's running around, you don't even have to. I'm not saying you drop coverage and don't worry, but a high percentage of the time you have to realize you got to leverage him properly because he's a running back right now, more so than a quarterback. Now, when he's running, extending, creating, I'm thinking I'm in trouble because this guy's a quarterback looking to throw the football. I got to stay back in coverage, and as soon as I give him space, the dude's gonna burn me with his feet and his legs. Telling you, this guy is a different breed of cat. He's something special now.
Dave Lapham has been the longtime color analyst and insider, and as well wore the real Bengals jerseys back in the 70s with the Bengals on, not these white cheetah-looking things. I don't know what they are. Joe Burrow, explain this to me like we're new and I don't know you. And what makes him so good? I mean, he has such an Elway sort of gunslingery. He's got a coolness about him that makes it fun. But what makes him so good as you study him versus Carson Palmer and Andy Dalton, who are also pretty good?
Yeah, you're right. They're very, very, very talented. This Joe Burrow, and we always talk about football intellect. He is Mensa now. He's a football IQ extraordinaire. This guy, he's smart as a whip. He's got all the answers to the test, and he works at it. Man, he's got a preparation protocol that he believes in, and he's going to go through. And the entire organization feels like he knows everything that you need to know to go out and compete at the highest level you can possibly compete. And he almost lures defensive coordinators into making calls that he's anticipating are going to be made. It's crazy to watch how this guy operates, and he's a little bit more nifty than people give him credit for. I think he can run. He runs 4.6. He's not a burner like Lamar Jackson, but he can run and he can make people miss, and he can extend and create and get out there and not freelance, but I mean he'll make a play that wasn't the play that was called, but boy, that ended up being a better play than the play that was called. He just really gets it. Very, very rarely. I will say in game one this year, because he's coming back off an appendectomy and he didn't do much during training camp. That was about the only time for about a half of that football game where I thought, boy, he's looking, he's not seeing it. You know, he's not seeing things like Joe Burrow sees things, but he's back now to seeing things like he sees the field as well as anybody I've ever seen at that position. He can make every throw. He's unbelievably accurate. I mean, he can put it in spots and spaces that, wow, that's real talent to get the ball in that tight of spot. He's just extremely gifted, and you know he's got I call it controlled swagger. He's got big time swagger, but it's not arrogant where teammates are like, this guy, what the hell? Who the hell does he think he is? He's got the swagger where guys are like, yeah, I'm following this dude.
Leadership, real leadership, right?
Totally confident, but not, there's that confident, cocky. There's that fine line, He is on that fine line to the right side of it, the proper side of it. And man, teammates respond to him, Nestor. It's unbelievable. He is definitely the duck that's leading all the ducklings. There's no doubt about that.
Well, the thing with Chase too, right? And this thing they have that's been years in the same way that Lamar would have with Mark Andrews now that they've been together a little while. But even going back to college, the success they had, mistakes they made back on a field in Baton Rouge that they're never even brought with them, that is incredibly unique. And I think really dangerous. I mean, Marcus Peters is pissed at the coach the other day, and Marlon Humphrey's apparently playing pretty well right now. But the backside of the secondary here, for all the investment they've made, it's to stop this. Again, we're not building this to stop Peyton Manning and Tom Brady anymore, right? Like, right. Who's in the way? It's not the kid in Pittsburgh, and it's not, even the kid in Cleveland, who we'll see him get to the field when he gets to the field and see how he does.
Right.
But to me, this is about Joe Burrow and the kid out in I say L.A. I was about to say San Diego, the Chargers.
Right.
I've already called the Indians the Guardians this week. I'm a disaster. I don't know what to call the Commanders except last place. But the good teams and the good quarterbacks, you're building these secondaries with 7 or 8 guys to rotate in, knowing that there's no such thing as 2 cornerbacks anymore.
Yeah, you're right. And the thing about Chase and Burrow that you talk about the chemistry they have, and it seems to be the same type of thing with Jackson and Andrews. When Jamar Chase is running a route, he knows based on reps that he's had at LSU, time on task, basically. Repetition breeds comfort level. And they've thrown a ton of footballs with each other. And he'll know by where the defensive back is leveraging him in coverage, he'll know where Joe Burrow is going to throw the football before Joe Burrow throws the football. He knows exactly the spot that Joe is going to attack. And when you have that kind of a relationship where, it's like uh, ESP, they sense and feel each other before it actually occurs, then you got something special. Instead of having to react after the fact, like, oh, where's he going to throw it? Oh, man, I wasn't expecting that. He's like, I know Joe's going to put the ball right here on the back shoulder. I know he's going to lead me down the football field on this one. I know he's going to put it here. He's going to put it there. That's big. That's big. And when receivers and quarterbacks take it to another level, when they have that type of, that you don't have to communicate it. They just know it. It's understood, it's crazy.
Dave Lapham's here. We call these wise conversations with our friends at Wise Markets because when I have to get my pen out, I get my 4-color pen, right? So we're going to class here with Professor Dave. Time on task. Oh, look at you! All the good kids have that. That's perfect. Absolutely. As we learn together here.
There you go.
Time on task. That's a good one. I like that. Repetition breeds comfort. I like that. See, you think I'm not listening, but I listen to my elders. All right, look, man, let's have some real fun here. The white thing and the white out that made an old guy like you a little dizzy, up there, like a strobe light, right?
Right.
I would say if they wanted to throw back, they should put BENGA. I mean, the way Ken Anderson, Boobie Clark, you opened a few holes for him. Yeah. So, I want to go back to that era. I mean, I ran into Stan White the other day at the Cal Ripken Senior event, and my first ever football game day was September 23rd, 1973. And Stan White separated Joe Namath's shoulder on a sack, and Stan's been doing what you've done for 30 years at WBAL. And, to that era of football to me in my childhood and the little helmets that I used to get at the supermarket in the quarter machine and the magnets on the wall and my dad taking me out with the little tickets to see the Dolphins and the Bills and the Jets. And so the Jets were the first game. But those jerseys, the Bengals jerseys you had, they're bringing Patriot Pat back this week in Foxborough, Dave. You need to, Munoz wore the guys who wore that jersey need to put something together and say, all right, fine, wear the white things, make your money on Monday night. But come on, man, put the BENGA out. We went to a Super Bowl No, actually, you changed the helmet the year you went to the Super Bowl, right?
That was right. That was the first year of the striped helmets. And you're right, Anthony Munoz was a rookie in 1980. So his first year with the team, he had the Bengals block letter. But
Collinsworth didn't, right? Collinsworth came with the Zubaz, right?
He came with the 81. He was a rookie draft pick in 1981. He came with the stripes.
I went out. I was at that game on 33rd Street. So this is 81. I remember this vividly because the Cardinals came in that year. I had a thing about trying to see every team in the league play. My dad took me to a preseason game to see the Vikings, preseason game to see the Falcons, just to say, because I had the helmets and I was an Oiler fan, but I love Bert, all of that. Yeah. But by 81, my old man was worn out, right? So all the ish with Joe Thomas and Marcia Broda and then Burt Jones and Lionel Mitchell and the sack pack and Dutton to Dallas. I can go through it like the back of my, all of this, right? Randy Burke, all of this stuff. 81, we really stunk. 78, Burt fell apart. 79, 80, Art Schleister came a little later.
Right,
but the 81 year, I took the bus as a kid alone. I was 13, just turned 13. I took the Sunday special 22 bus after by myself. And I sat section 1 behind home plate, and because I wanted to see your jerseys, because I thought so. I understand the fascination with this white, or I was an Oiler fan because I like their jerseys, right?
Right.
So, but that helmet, when you guys put that on, that was really sexy, cool. You had the coolest helmets in the league by far in 1981, right? And then nothing changed. So this white thing, it's almost brilliant because the fans there only know one thing, literally, right?
Sure. I mean, it's interesting that the evolution of the helmet, because as we know, Paul Brown, the Browns are named after Paul Brown, Cleveland Browns. Just an orange helmet. That's it. With maybe like a white stripe down the middle there, and very plain. So he came to Cincinnati, same color scheme, and he's like, I'm still going to keep it very, very simple and plain. So he knew he had to do something. Couldn't just duplicate the Cleveland Browns helmets. The league wouldn't allow that. So he puts very simple block lettering saying who the team is. Bengals, identifying the team. Very simple. And then to go from that to the stripes, oh my gosh, that was like, oh, are you kidding me?
It was the height of disco, dude. It was like 1980, 81. Yeah. It was like those helmets looked like they came out of Studio 54.
You're right. I mean, it was the Rams. The Rams with very distinctive, horn logo for the Ram, and then the Bengals. And they were like, oh, these two. Boy, you got all these teams with similar. Look at these two, boy. This is incredible. And then they go with the white Bengal tiger with the white helmet, and I did think though that all white look was kind of clean and crisp. The players loved it, man. The players had a definite bounce in their step. They looked a little bit faster to me. I don't know if the color of the unis or what, but they were. And plus the fact that, like you say, Nestor, 67,000 plus in full throat. I mean, the Miami Dolphins burned 2 timeouts in the first quarter because of crowd noise. They burned 2 timeouts, couldn't communicate, clock's winding down. 2 of them in the first quarter. It's like, wow, this 12th man's real right here, right now.
Well, Dave, I've been in your building when it's been lonely and empty and cold and gray and sad. But I also came there one Monday night, kick off a season, maybe 15 years ago. We got our ass kicked. Place was a hellhole. I remember being there like 06, 07, 08, Carson Palmer, Height. Marvin's got the trainer rolling. You guys think you can win. Chad Ochocinco's an internet sensation, like all of that. I remember going in there and it was nasty that night. And it was a real dogfight of kind of a game. We haven't always been that way, but that building downtown there can get pretty lit in Cincinnati when,
You're right.
And for tailgating and down on the promenade and all that area. I mean, and now you got the bars down the street that weren't there 20 years ago. So I still have my flight to Cincinnati. If some friends let me in, maybe I'll be there. You know how I want indigestion from your chili down there, Dave. So, time and space changes everything. But from the outside looking in, I miss you, Dave Lapham. And I hope to see you soon, man.
You're the man, Nestor. Appreciate you. Enjoy you. You are a pro's pro. You do your work, man. And I respect the heck out of that. You're as good as there is.
Listen, man, Saturday night, you guys want some crabs, I'll take you over to Costas, all right? You put the boys together. If you want some, and I'm being honest with you, this is me.
Gotcha.
The crabs are the biggest and best this time of year, and no one eats them. They think of it as a summer thing. This is the time, September into this period of time, the crab's been sitting in the water longer, bigger, fatter, juicier, meatier, all of that. So
good to know. Makes total sense. Good to know. See, I learned something every time we catch up, Rob.
It's a wise conversation. That's what we call them, wise conversation. Dave Lapham is the longtime color analyst of all things Cincinnati Bengals. Nobody knows more, man. He's been on the field doing it, even talking real jerseys and old school stuff. I never hated the Bengals as an Oiler fan, Dave. I mean, you went there one day, we have crabs, which would be a thrill for me to take you out this weekend. But I probably would ask you, what was it like to walk into the Astrodome when they had Love You Blue everywhere? So I just want you to bleed my ears about that while you smell like, J.O. Spice. All right.
You talk about a loud place, bro. Woo! The Astrodome, when the Oilers were rocking, brutal.
Look out, football, here we come. Houston Oilers #1. Come on.
Houston Oilers.
Houston Oilers. Oh, my God. You heard the song a few times there through the earpieces there. Dave Lapham, always one of the good ones in Cincinnati, Ohio, where big game going on this week. Luke's out knowing Smills all week long. He's at Baltimore, Luke. I am easily found at the all new and improved BaltimorePositive.com. Stay with us.